maneuvering in and out of
Because
traffic
this is
like
what we
this.
do. We
Can
do
the pilot
chases.
throw up the little compass that shows the speeds?
I don't believe we have our map tracker this evening, but you know, usually that's a very helpful tool that you know they're able to clock how fast this person has been going. But you know, Darren, I know you can eyeball this. It looks like they've been going at least at some points in excess of 90 miles per hour, if I had to guess.
I just picked my mom up.
Consistently between 80 and 90, and probably at times up to 100 miles an hour.
Now, it looks like they stayed on the 210. I would have to see a wider shot to really get a better sense of that. But this part of the freeway right here, that where the 57 splits there's a lot of trucking activity along the 210 in this area too.
Fucking tacos.
That's something that this person is going to have to contend with. I've already seen a couple big rigs out on the road, and you know those drivers can't see you when you're passing them on the left going this fast, and it's dark out there. So this is really scary, Chris. I know you're probably holding your breath too.
Yeah, I mean, especially when they were on the, you know, the regular roads, the surface streets, and you saw all the traffic. Because keep in mind, I mean, I said this already, but it is Saturday night, and there's a lot more people on the road, and you know, you see this flying by. It's definitely a scary situation.
I'm the Mac.
And hopefully this person will, you know, pull over and.
I'm the Mac. Get your stupid ass out of here for real.
But right now, and by the looks of it, this person has no intention of pulling over. But the fact that these people are wanted for an assault with a deadly weapon, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, on a law enforcement officer, no less. And we really don't know the circumstances of that, Darren. And I know, Darren, in situations that you've covered with us here on the broadcast, and certainly in real life situations, unfortunately, you know, that assault with a deadly weapon many times is actually a vehicle itself, as opposed to you know what we would normally think of as a weapon, which is no less dangerous.
Yeah, and you know, we don't know, but some of that damage to that car could have come from that event. It could have been where he rammed a police car or something like that, and that would be assault with a deadly weapon, and there's damage to the car from that. One other thing I wanted to point out that
I'm the Mac.
you notice that CHP Cruiser, he's kind of offset. He's not directly behind. You talked about earlier about the lights and the siren. Well, police cars, after about 45, 50 miles an hour, you're outrunning the siren, so people in front of you can't hear it. So he's off to the side, so the people in front can see his lights coming up behind him and not relying on the siren. And that's just it's a really good tactic that the CHP employs. They're very professional in these pursuits, and they do a great job.
Yeah, so we're learning 210 in the Laverne area is the current location on the left-hand side. If we could get the live screen a little bit bigger, that'd be helpful. There we go. That way folks at home and on their phones or computers can get a better idea of what's going on. So we see two black and whites not far behind from this driver that just keeps going. And, you know, right now what we're seeing is, you know, the driver is, you know, going very fast on the freeways, but at the same time weaving in and out of traffic. And if you look closely, you can see in the back of it, the bumper is falling off. That's likely from the pit that was.
I don't think we're on the 210 anymore.
Not anymore. Now
I think that he may have actually gotten on the 57 and then headed down to the 10. So if that's the case, that split right there, that's Pomona. And that's, you know, it's interesting because that split there, you have a couple of options, different ways you could go, 71, 10, 57. And then, of course, that could take you into different parts of the Inland Empire and parts of, you know, Pomona's Los Angeles County here. And that area has its own police department, but is also policed in part by the LA County Sheriff's Department, which has a substation, I think, in Diamond Bar. You know, Darren, I don't know what the end game is here. We never really do, truly, when we cover these situations. But, you know, the car has quite a bit of damage, and I wonder how much longer this person can go on before he or she runs out of gas or just has to stop based on the damage to the vehicle.
Well, we know it can go hours for some people, right?
Right, 6 hours, 6+ hours the other day.
Yeah. I will say that at one point when he was making one of the transitions, I did see sparks coming from the area of the left rear tire. Maybe parts of that bumper that were dragging that were causing that. But, you know, we know that his door's falling off, the bumper's falling off, and we don't know what other
this guy's door and
bumper could, you know, end up puncturing the left rear tire if it drags. There's all kinds of things that can happen here, but you're right. We just don't know, and we don't know what the status of you know, how much gas was in the car.
But I can't front. That's how I am. When I get mad, I get real loud.
The other night,
like my whole voice changes and I get real.
Not to mention the parts of the car flying off and causing some serious damage to other vehicles.
But it's not that I'm trying to. It's just come off that way.
On the news, we've covered situations where car parts flying off have actually critically injured innocent drivers, even killed people. So, I mean, it really is scary when you see a situation like this. We certainly hope that is not the case tonight, but it looks like air support is here because they're lighting up this driver now.
Yeah, and we saw a minute ago when your camera crew doubled in that it did look like there was a second person in the passenger seat, in the right front passenger seat. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting here, and then you got to wonder: is that passenger, were they involved in the assault with a deadly weapon, or are they just stuck in the car with this maniac who's driving at these high speeds and endangering all of these motorists on the roadway?
Yeah, just weaving in and out.
I wonder why he didn't go live again.
Looks like no intention of slowing down, at least not anytime soon.
He lost it.
Sarah, just watching this though,
he lost his phone.
You got to hope for the best, and that maybe this person will get out of gas and pull over. But at this point, that's not the case. Darren, question for you: when people are on these pursuits, especially ones like this, where obviously they're able to cruise a little bit more, they're not on surface streets. What are they usually doing? Are they trying to contact family? Are they trying to find out if they're making the local news for that Saturday night? I mean, is there a commonality between these pursuits that you see?
Hey, what area do they study?
Every single one is different, and while there are some commonalities in pursuits, like when we see these people who go back to a neighborhood and they circle the same neighborhood multiple times because they're looking for a place to bail out, or they want to get to a place where they're comfortable. What the person's doing in the car, we don't usually know until it's terminated, or we get a phone call from dispatch saying, "Hey, I'm on the line with somebody," or a family member is called and they're on the line with the person. So you just don't know. I think that this guy probably has his hands full trying to keep that door closed and drive the car at these high speeds and these erratic maneuvers that he's making. But we don't know what the passenger is doing either. So that person could be on the phone. But what we have seen more and more frequently lately are citizens getting involved, coming in. The 6-hour one, I hadn't seen that level of public involvement since the OJ pursuit in 1994.
Right, and they had time and certainly the media coverage to coordinate that
because it was going so slow.
We were on the air for hours, and you're right, Chris, it was slow. So I'm just going to guess here. This looks like it's the 10, maybe heading eastbound in Montclair. I think I saw them pass the Norms, which is off the freeway there. Forgive me, I associate where things are based on restaurants and in and out locations, as Chris knows. So we're following this police pursuit right now, which has gotten really, really dangerous at times, certainly enough to sort of take our breath away. And the end game here isn't clear. This is an assault with a deadly weapon suspect. You can see the spotlight, the night sun there on the suspect, meaning I'm guessing that's probably LASD up there. Maybe.
It could be CHP.
It could be CHP.
As a helicopter at the Fullerton Airport, so they could have joined as well.
It could be CHP. That is also true, because CHP right here is the lead. You can see that lead vehicle chasing the suspect right now. So if they are on the 10 heading eastbound, which I believe they are, and I'll have my producer correct me, that means that they're probably heading toward the Ontario area right now and really sort of getting out of the greater Los Angeles area, LA County specifically. But, Darren, I wonder, so, we see sort of this interagency coordination quite a bit here. So if this person does happen to get off the freeway in a city like Rancho Cucamonga, which I believe they have their own department as well,
they're not finna
we could see that.
County Sheriff.
Oh, the San Bernardino County Sheriff. So we could see that handoff happen here if that happens, presumably.
You could, or there could be an LA County unit that is trailing the pursuit, not actively pursuing. If it gets off the freeway again, they can take over again. But yes, there's plenty of mutual. California's got one of them.
It was already going on before Static even turned it on. That shit went on for like 4 or 5 more hours.
Not only on the ground, but in the air as well, as this continues to go.
And Darren, do you have any intel about the one? We do know assault with a deadly weapon on a law enforcement agency, law enforcement officer in East Los Angeles. Do you have any details about what that assault was?
I don't.
What's wrong with his car?
We don't know.
His door's
could be
somebody.
Yeah, he's holding his door.
The code 245, the penal code.
He's holding his door closed.
A deadly weapon, or assault that could cause great bodily injury. So we don't know what actually happened here. But I think with East LA LAB
door
agency where
won't
the
even
original
close.
crime occurred, and you saw that
He about to
very
get caught
aggressive
now.
pursuing and attempts at
It's
pit maneuvers
probably about to
by
come
LA County
soon.
sheriffs. That's probably got something to do with it. It happened in LA County, and it was an LA County deputy who was most likely the victim of that assault with a deadly weapon.
So now we're in Rancho Cucamonga. So I think, there's a couple
Making some good
exits over
distance.
there. Archibald, there's the 15 freeway. Of course, the 210 freeway and the 10 run parallel in this area, as it does much through the San Gabriel Valley. But to change lanes or get off of this freeway and go anywhere else. The 10, of course, goes on and on forever. So, you could go quite a ways without actually getting off the freeway, as
He
opposed to some of the
really
other
ain't
freeways
trying to go to
in
jail.
our Southern California region that end or sort of tee off with other
None of them are.
highways.
Hell
So,
no, it's
Darren,
the
CHP in
weekend.
pursuit
Like, you
right
can't
now.
see the judge till Monday,
What are
depending
they
on when
doing
you
as
got
this
in. You
happens?
might
I know
catch
they're
them on
communicating
Tuesday.
back and forth. They have to get everything approved in terms of making sort of an intervention with the vehicle, but they're going so fast they can really just sort of hang back at this point, right?
Yeah, continue to
people don't want
pursue,
this
maintain
loud
visual
man
of the
They just said they're gonna
suspect,
hang back.
With a high caliber crime like assault with a deadly weapon on the peace officer, I sincerely doubt that they would back off. They're going to continue to pursue this until the suspects are taken into custody. Don't forget, too, we've also got the 60 that runs parallel south of the 10 with the 210, running parallel on the north side. So he's got multiple options coming up when he hits the 15.
Every now and then
or
we'll get
one
a
of
high
those,
speed
other
over here.
intersecting freeways.
Yeah, if you get on the
Texas
15
got
and
them
end up
big-ass,
in
long-ass
Pass, and
freeways,
you
too.
have other issues
What's
because
got
that's
the,
a windy
what's it
road.
called?
You don't want
What's
to
it- what's
you don't
it,
want a
uh,
police
Sam
pursuit in that
Houston?
area,
What's
and
the
if
Sam
you're already
Houston?
running out of gas
The
and you're heading up that
tollway?
hill,
That's
you're
just a
definitely
big
running
ass
out of
loop.
gas then. Chris,
That shit's- but
I
that
have
shit's
to
big,
say,
ain't it?
I'm
It's
glad to see that
it
we're
take
not
you
seeing
all
some of the
around the
weaving we saw
outskirts of
earlier.
the city.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. If you're just watching this right now, turning on to KCAL 9 News, CBSN Los
Houston,
Angeles,
but
shortly before
we
8
got- it's a
o'clock,
lot of
this
different,
driver was driving very dangerously, very wild, very reckless, to say
police
the least.
officers, like
I've
different
said this
types.
once,
We got
but that video game
constables,
Grand Theft Auto,
sheriff.
I felt like I was watching a scene from that because that driver
all
had no
over. We
intentions
got-
of
it
pulling
depends
over,
on
and
what
still
part of
nearly,
Houston you
30
in,
minutes
'cause
later,
you might
this driver
get,
is
like,
still going. Thankfully, the
Bel
driver is
Air.
now on
You might even
the
get
freeway, so
the
there's not as
I don't
much
know. It's
traffic
so
as there
much
was
going
the
on. Then you
surface
got to watch
streets when
out for the state
police attempted that
troopers.
first pit, and
Yeah,
you
we
know,
got
just
all
watching
that
that
shit too.
first
We
pit
got
maneuver,
me and
and
got
Sarah
the
thought it was
Metro,
over.
which
We're
is
like,
the
okay,
Las Vegas
that
Metropolitan Police.
pursuit's
Then we
done,
got
but no, that
Henderson
driver kept
Police
going, and
Department.
now
Then we
the
got
bumper
North
is
Las Vegas
falling off.
Police Department.
You have the
Then
door
you
that
got-
keeps opening and closing
you
every
got,
time he makes a sharp
Highway
turn.
Patrol.
We don't know if he's
Then the
opening it and
constables will
closing
come
it,
pick your
or if
ass
it's
up
just if it's damaged.
from your house.
And it also raises the question if this person's door is not latching and closing. If police were able to do a pursuit at slower speeds, I mean that could be some pretty big harm for
They
for
will.
that
They'll
driver,
come
that
to
person.
your house
I
and
believe we're
pick your
passing
ass
Vineyard
up.
now, by the way, just to give you a location on the 10 freeway heading eastbound. So
Yeah.
that would put this person in Rancho Cucamonga, if you're familiar. So not quite yet to the 15 freeway, if that locator is right, Darren.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, Chris, you mentioned the bumper falling off, the door, etc. But again, for those that weren't
You ever been to
watching
California?
earlier, there were pieces of the car that were falling off at high speeds on the freeway
Yeah.
and bouncing up and potentially damaging other vehicles and injuring other
Like
people
New York,
on the roadway.
New York is its own animal.
Yeah, you hate
California's
to see
its own
that too.
animal 'cause it's
If
just
you've
so
lived
big and
if you've
spread
lived
out.
in LA long enough, you have probably hit
Like, they
debris on the
hoods don't look
freeway
like hoods.
and
They
damaged
hoods
your
look like
car and
nice
had to pay for it,
neighborhoods.
and that is no fun. It's happened to me
That's
many
on a
times. If
daily
it's not,
basis,
if
you
it's
have
not
to
a
keep an eye on it.
pothole, it's a car part
Just like
or
Texas,
it's
like
like a
y'all ain't
couch
got no
part.
A
y'all
TV.
y'all
Or
ain't
some
built up
TV,
like
and
New York got the
it
big
really is
ass
unfortunate
10
because these
story,
people are
12
just
story
going about their
buildings.
lives, living their lives, and
I
nobody
mean, we
deserves
got-
to have to deal
we
with that,
have-
especially given all the
we got
financial
budgets,
hardship
but
that
it's not
everybody's
built
going
up.
through right now.
Yeah, we don't have
So
the
I
buildings
think
like that,
it's
but we
always
do
good to see
have
nobody getting hurt,
complexes
but I don't want to
and
downplay damage
definitely
to
had a
vehicles either,
ghetto.
because that is a big deal
Oh.
to a lot of people.
I mean,
It would
like
be a big deal to
Thurgood,
me,
that
certainly.
has
And I know that is something to
middle-class,
consider
nice,
when it comes to these
big
pursuits. We've
homes,
already seen this
mansions,
driver
and it
clip a couple
has
of cars, I
ghetto
believe,
ass,
Darren.
bottom gunshot house numbers and shit.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has clipped a couple
Dope
of cars.
houses and shit, he
and
got
then
outlets.
too, he was traveling on the
what's the,
shoulder in periods, and
what's
there's
the
all
richest
kinds of
part,
debris on the
Pearland? Is it
shoulder
Pearland
that
or
he is
Sugarland?
throwing up and is hitting other vehicles as well. And
The
beyond the
richest
damage,
part of
the
what?
danger to the drivers, that if they have to come up
Yo,
against the
what's
windshield,
up,
crack
Mr.
the windshield or
He's
distract them, and then they
like
make a sudden move,
one of them,
it's
Sugarland,
dangerous all the way
one of
around.
them is
And
fucking rich.
what's
Like where
interesting,
Bush
we
lived at
talked
and
about
shit.
this many times before, Darren.
Well, Bush
Usually when it
live
comes
at.
to
Bush.
pursuits, drivers
My friends would.
tend to go
late?
to an area that they know well, freeways that they know,
I don't
areas
know.
they know,
I just know my brother-in-law,
streets that they know, neighborhoods they know, etc.
When
This
he was
driver,
taking
I
me
mean,
through the city,
it seems like
this was a
they
long
have no
time
intention
ago.
of going anywhere in specific.
But
They
the
just
reaching,
keep going and
no,
going, right?
the reaching
they're just
part
going to run
of
until
Houston
the
is
pursuit is
probably
terminated
like
one way or
River
another, whether
Oaks
it's
or
through
maybe
pursuit
the
and
Galleria
intervention
area.
technique, he runs out of gas, the vehicle becomes disabled, or the worst case that he's involved in a collision.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
remember
he's
that
not
big
going
ass
to
mall.
outrun the
Is that where
helicopter
Galleria is?
by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And these ground units, especially the CHP, as they move
We had to
through
park on,
office
like,
areas,
next to
they can
somebody's
hand the
fucking
pursuit
house.
off
There
to
wasn't
a
nowhere
fresh
to park.
set of officers with a full tank of gas and a car that has not been
Yeah,
utilized.
they got
The lead
parking
unit now,
now,
it's a new lead
but
unit. It's
it's
now probably gone into another
Galleria got
office
so
area at
much
the
going
CHP
on
and
over
transferred it
there.
over. And so the officers aren't experiencing the fatigue from the stress and the adrenaline that the driver's going to
Last time I
experience.
went to Houston,
We're going to be able to take this until he's
I don't know what the
taken
fuck
into
I went.
custody.
So I believe we're
went to
now
a Rockets
past the
game.
15 freeway heading eastbound on the
I
10,
got fucked up.
which would put this driver
Don't
heading
remember
into the
watching none of the
Fontana
game.
area. You know, think
I just
about how
remember
far
eating
Chris
nachos
and
and
Darren we are from where we were just, a few
Yeah,
minutes ago. This
downtown.
driver was in the
Yep.
East Los Angeles area,
Yep.
changing freeways, driving around on surface streets, and
We
now
went
we're
into a
almost to
club
Fontana.
downtown.
See
That
how
is quite a
fast
ways
it
It
takes
away.
to
was
get
the
from point A
ghetto
to
ass
point B
club
without
downtown.
traffic.
It was where all the
Right,
niggas was at.
right. You could
It
certainly
was
get
like
farther without traffic, but you know,
Ladies
it does make me
free.
nervous to see this driver.
50
Darren
cent,
was
50
mentioning
cent.
he thought that
It
this
was like
person might be
50 cent
driving
drinks till
in
like
excess of 100
till like
miles per hour at
midnight
some points, and
for
I would
females
agree
or
with that
some shit
assessment.
like
This
that.
driver has been
That shit was
really
ghetto.
hauling down the freeway at different points in time. And you know, I know people, you know, watch
That shit
pursuits.
was
They're glued
hood.
to the
I'm
TV
not gonna
like
lie.
all
I'm
of us
glad
are,
we
but
like,
you know, we have families, and you know, I have kids, and every time I
Like-
see one of these,
like,
I
it's
think about
clubs
the
out here.
innocent
It's-
people,
we got hella
you know,
clubs
caught
out
up
here.
in this, and I don't want
Like, you see
anyone to
mixture
get
of
hurt. I
everything.
just
That shit
want
right
this
there
to
was
end
nothing
and
niggas. I was
the
like,
arrest to be made
goodness.
and everybody to go home
I ain't feel
safely,
safe.
including law enforcement,
Well,
including the
I feel
suspect. I don't want to see anyone hurt, Chris. I know you feel the same way about this. So you do hope, you know, that this person comes to their senses and pulls over and gives up.
And that's the one thing you have right, sir. You hope, and
Nah, I
Darren
ain't had
mentioned
no, I
it,
ain't
you know,
got, I ain't had
this
no heat
pursuit
on me.
will eventually come to an end, and
I felt
hopefully that
naked.
person gets taken into custody. But what we saw, 40
And I'm
minutes
from
ago,
out
and how
of town, you know what I'm
reckless
saying?
this driver was, I mean, it's
It
one
was
of those
cool. It was cool. I
situations where
enjoyed
this
myself
pursuit
on it,
could
you
end
know.
in a pretty bad way, and obviously that's not
Ain't
something we
gonna
want to see. But just want to remind you that if you are watching this with your kids, just be careful, because it appears that this driver has no intentions of pulling over, and the fact that they're wanted for an assault with a deadly weapon against a law enforcement officer, I mean, that alone
Please
shows how
get in front of
dangerous
him and
this
stop
pursuit
him.
could
But that's
potentially
early.
be.
And as a parent,
Which
let me
one
just
is
say,
live
at
now?
8:20, I hope the
Okay,
kids are getting
the
to bed.
one
at
to
this
the
point.
right is early.
Let me get on the
Yeah,
record
but-
with that.
I was up all night on Saturday night as a
Let me
kid.
know when they finish.
You bring up a good point, though, Chris. These pursuits have somewhat become entertainment, and we've become desensitized to them. But they're very, very dangerous events that endanger the public, they endanger the officers, they endanger the driver of the pursued vehicle. And all law enforcement is trying to do is stop a crime
You
from
saw,
occurring
brother,
and
I
get the
said-
person in custody to protect the public. But it's kind of become entertainment value rather than recognizing this event for the seriousness that it is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the last thing you want is to see a family. You know, everybody has a family, and it's hard to do this job when you're an empath. And I always feel for people, no matter what the story is. And these pursuits always make me nervous. I think, you know, somebody out there driving with their kids, we've seen that happen where a pursuit ends in a crash and there's a car seat in the back, and we just all hold our breath. It's just terrible, you know, to see that. And we certainly hope this ends safely. But you're right, Chris, given the way that this was going just 40 minutes ago or so, and given the moves that this driver was pulling back toward when we were in the East Los Angeles area, you know, anything could happen with a pursuit like this where the driver, you know, is wanted for something so serious and really doing everything they can to get away. And again, just to give you a sense of where we are now, I believe we should be either past Fontana or in Fontana or heading into Rialto, even really far down the 10 freeway eastbound.
Yeah, and then we'll hit Bloomington, and then
My shit was muted the whole
San
time.
Bernardino,
I
and
was talking.
continue going. He could go potentially all the way out to the desert. We just don't
Yeah,
know.
them drinks was cheap
And our
as
winds,
hell, but
I know we've been talking about
Hey.
the winds. Winds can be pretty bad in that area as well,
no,
especially
you got a lot
when
to
it comes to
spend
the
on, so you
semis that are
get
driving in the
fucked up
Cajon
still.
Pass
I
area.
took a few.
That
Yeah.
right there is
See, the
a
female
weather
to the bar
element
together.
that could be dangerous as well.
Yeah, and I saw just a couple hours ago that the winds are going to be increasing overnight as we move into the 10 o'clock hour. And if this pursuit's still going and it's out in the desert in those high wind areas, you just don't know.
Yeah, when you see the video that we show with semis that are always, toppling over on their side, it's usually in this area.
Right, yeah, exactly, Chris. We do stories like that all the time where you get these really high gusts coming through this area, and I don't think that's...
Even if you're not in a semi, in a car, it's hard to control your car. This car's like falling apart by the mile.
It's true. It's so true. We do those stories out there. I remember when Dave Lopez was with us, he was out there doing the live shot, with multiple big rigs toppled, and I don't think that's a situation right here tonight, thankfully. Those winds get so scary over here in this area. But, Darren, I was talking about the 10 freeway, and you were talking about where this person can end up. You could drive through all the way down to Texas if you want, and beyond that, points even farther east.
Let's hope not tonight.
Well, say, YouTube saw
The newscaster just said he can drive all the way to Texas.
With gas when the units have backed off.
Oh, he don't want to. He
I don't know if you noticed.
No, yeah, he's gonna deliver some grow hub to you.
Just a few seconds ago. So it could be that they've crossed into another area, or the one that was in the lead had issues with fuel or whatever. But that's the benefit of having a statewide organization leading this pursuit right now. They have unlimited resources to continue following this pursuit until the suspect's in custody.
Darren, talk a little bit about the difference. So we cover a lot of these pursuits at night, and sometimes we see the air support up there, and I know there's a lot of coordination, and quite a few agencies in our area have air support. I think City of Pasadena has something like 9 helicopters at their disposal, or something like that. At one point they did. Anyway. I don't know what the situation is there now. But, sometimes we don't see any helicopters at all. Can you give us a sense of how much more helpful it is when you do have, the night sun up there, and you have the air support kind of guiding the way with these officers on the ground?
So it's even beyond the night sun. Everything involved with the helicopter. There's an observer up there whose sole focus is to keep the light on the car and to keep observation on the car and to call the pursuit over the radio. If the helicopter's not there, one of those ground units has to then distract himself even further by continuing to call out the pursuit on the radio, call out the cross traffic, call out intersections they go through, call out the traffic violations that the suspect's committing through the pursuit, so they can adequately charge at the end with the felonious evading. But the helicopter's up there, and it takes so much of a burden off of the officers that they don't have to be right on the suspect's tail. They don't have to overdrive. They can sit back and maintain a visual and rely on the air support and the helicopter to just continue to guide them. And it's absolutely invaluable for a police officer on the ground, particularly in a high-stress event like a pursuit at these speeds.
Chris, I wonder, have you noticed, I don't think we've quite come up to the 215 yet, so, which would put us somewhere, maybe in the Bloomington area now off the 10 heading eastbound. We were passing through Fontana. We may still be in Fontana, but if this person hits the 215, we're really far out, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, we really are. And, thankfully, we're not seeing as much traffic on the freeway as we saw, about 40 minutes ago. Darren, you've been retired LAPD sergeant for many years. Is that, do you think they're thankful that this driver is going into an area where there's less and less people versus, areas that are, where there's a lot of people on a Saturday night?
I think that is something that is worth considering. I also think that, when we're, now he's making some lane changes again, and we were seeing more big rigs like Sarah had talked about. But yeah, he was there in the number 1 lane, going straight, not making any erratic moves for a long time. And that is a lot easier on the officers, and there's a lot less stress involved because you're not worried about other cars getting in the way, et cetera. So I think the issue is how far is he going to go and where are they going to get to? And the other thing is the farther out we get, as you get out in that desert area, there's a lot less light, right? It's a lot darker out there in those environments, so that can be an issue too. And with the weather coming in, how long is the helicopter going to be able to stay with the pursuit with the weather?
Totally.
I didn't even think about that. You're right.
We were just talking about where we are here. So he's now approaching the 215, which means that he's probably in the Colton area, which is so far from East LA, where we were talking about an hour ago. I honestly lost track of time. This pursuit has been going on for a while, but Darren, we were talking a few minutes ago about how we've noticed some of these pursuits lasting a really long time. And I know that is in part, just depending on the circumstances of the pursuit, but splitting the difference between what is the safer move. Is the safer move intervening here and getting this person stopped in some way? They have, a myriad of tools at their disposal to do that. Or is it to let this continue to decrease the risk to the people around him?
Yeah, I think in this case where he's on the freeway and with the amount of traffic there is, it would be very difficult to put out a spike strip. And that would really, at these speeds, be the only option.
Is he getting off the freeway?
While he's on the freeway. It looks like he might be exiting. And hey, Chris, just full disclosure, it was not LAPD that I retired from. It was Orange County Agency.
Oh, right, yeah. Sorry about that.
But yeah, it looks like he is.
I think he's on the 215. Is he on the 215 now?
He
Yeah,
might be
he
on
is
the
on the
215.
215. That's what I thought. And that's that part of the freeway, even fewer cars. That part of the 10, like I mentioned, as other parts of the 210 and some other local freeways, is a major trucking route. And we don't usually see as many cars on this part of the 215. I admit it's been a while since I've been out here, but a little bit less congested and typically, and that's what I think we're seeing right now. But in any case, still dangerous and certainly something that we hope ends quickly and safely.
Yeah, and I think that they're actually
with this one, it was like
San Bernardino, maybe the Colton
it was like a vacuum
right
hose
now,
that's connected
on
to
the
a vacuum
215.
hose.
Is that looking at the freeway signs?
So my whole brake boost system.
So I was just hearing from our producer. So when these pursuits go on, and if you've watched KCAL for any stretch of time, you've seen this happen. Our helicopter pilot and crew has to stay safe as well. They have a certain amount of fuel that they have in the helicopter, and then they have to refuel. There have been times where they've landed to refuel and then launched again and rejoined the pursuit. But we certainly hope this will have ended at that point. But I just want to let our viewers know that we are on a time constraint in terms of our fuel limitations.
It's all good to go.
Good to know. And if you're just watching this right now, we are following this high-speed police pursuit. That driver that is wanted for an assault with a deadly weapon against a law enforcement agency officer in East Los Angeles. And Darren Wyatts is with us right now. Darren, obviously communication is very important when it comes to dealing with the law enforcement agency and the driver. What do officers do to make contact with this person and to communicate? Because obviously they're going so fast that
what the
they're not
fuck
able
you
to
want?
use their signs to talk to them.
So the siren
what?
just
Nah,
turned
I don't
because
ban
the law
people
requires
from my
a steady burning red light
I
at the
will
front and a
ban.
siren to actually be in pursuit.
Where's he at?
He knows that the lights are there. He knows the helicopters are there. There have been several attempts to do
I ain't bringing him up
pursuit
here. I
intervention
banned
techniques.
him.
So there's no way he
It's
can
no
argue he
point.
didn't know the cop was behind him. They'll
Where'd he
oftentimes
come
shine
in?
the spotlight into the window.
Look, I don't think he come. I ain't give him a chance. Did he come in the back? I don't know.
Have the driver not have good visibility and then cause him to crash. So really, they're not communicating with him. He knows that they're there. He knows that he's obligated by law to pull over and stop, and he's not doing that. So they're just going to wait until it's pulled over, and then they'll communicate via the PA system or verbally yelling at him and giving him instructions and trying to get him to surrender peacefully.
So we're southbound on the 215 near Washington now, really, really incredibly far away from where we started with this pursuit in the East Los Angeles area now, and really heading deep into the Inland Empire. No telling where this driver ends up. Of course, they could rejoin with the 15 freeway and then head all the way south into the greater San Diego area, which would be even farther.
Yeah. Sarah, we were talking a minute ago about the resources that the CHP has. You notice now there's a third lead vehicle in the pursuit just in the last 10 minutes. So they've been able to transition 3 new lead units in this pursuit just in the last 10 minutes.
Wow.
So there's unlimited resources here to take this to its conclusion.
Yeah, I just want to remind our viewers that we are up on some time constraints when it comes to the fuel that our helicopter needs. But, Chris, I know you were here, or perhaps you were here the day before, the day where we had that 6+ hour pursuit. And I think our helicopter refueled multiple times and continued to cover it.
That was a hard one. And one of the things that Darren talked about was all the community involvement. I mean, this driver was going so slow at times. It was the never-ending pursuit. People came out to the freeways, the surface streets to get video, what have you. I actually spoke, Darren, to the driver's father, had an exclusive interview with him, and I talked to him a little bit about, his son, and basically one of the things that he mentioned was his son was having issues with his mental health, and that was part of the reason why he believes he never pulled over, and he suffers from schizophrenia, etc. That's what the father told me. When it comes to pursuits, is mental health a big deal? Is that a common? Is that common for a lot of these people, or drugs, or?
Oh, he got selective memory.
Yeah, he doesn't have to turn it on.
Transitioning onto another freeway now.
He can't go live. I don't know how to go live.
60 West, maybe? Or east?
How do you get this thing live?
I don't know. It looks like he's
We'll find
transitioning
out.
onto another. He's transitioning
Let me
onto
just
another
say, man, I
freeway.
can't get it off. I can't cut it off.
Oh, he probably can't. He probably got a Wi-Fi. He probably got a service.
When it comes
Yeah,
to
he got a service on his phone. He only use it in the house.
them pulling over or running out of gas, and then they barricade themselves. You wonder, is it drugs? Is it mental health? Is it alcohol? And you just don't know. There's such a prevalence, especially with COVID right now.
He's gonna go live from
a lot of people are in mental health crisis, and you have to take that into consideration, and you have to, especially when it comes to a termination, how you deal with that suspect in that event, and trying to de-escalate the situation rather than exacerbate it when there's mental health issues involved.
It's not like
Yeah,
you ran down the block.
just so much at play here, with what law enforcement has to deal with and all the circumstances that they have to consider. Chris, and I appreciate your perspective because
hold on,
we hear from people sometimes about why don't we ever hear what happens after the pursuit? And I know people do wonder, about what happens to the suspect and what happens to the people caught up in all of the drama. And you reported on one.
Fuck them gang. Why you sound like that? Fuck
What was
them
going on
gang.
with the suspect?
That's the
That's
bitch
how
you
every
got.
guy made me, bitch. I fuck you
Fuck
up, nigga.
my
Yo, you sound stupid. Get out of here.
Yeah, so that could have been the 60. I'm really not sure. This is an area that I'm not especially familiar with. But we do want to remind our viewers now that the helicopter does have to refuel. We want to make sure our crew in the air is safe. So we're going to continue to follow this breaking news here from the newsroom, and we'll bring you any updates as this driver evades California Highway Patrol on a very long, more than an hour-long police pursuit. Darren Wyatt, thank you for joining us. We may have to rejoin you here in a few minutes if this
Thank you so
continues.
much.
Always fly the Houston hobby.
Yeah, so bizarre,
Yo,
Sarah.
you know what they
I mean,
sound
let's
like,
hope
Sage?
this one comes to a good ending, because from
Those
what
things
we've
from
seen,
Sesame
Sarah,
Street.
it was pretty reckless in the beginning.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And on the
Those
right-hand
fucking
side of
things
your
that
screen,
sing?
you're seeing some of those
Yeah,
images
I know
from
what you're talking
earlier
about.
where multiple pit
That's the
maneuvers
bitch he
attempted.
got.
It looked like it was over, and
I
then
threw
it
you
just
off the
continued
panel
on.
like that.
Who
And
was
it seems
that?
to be continuing
That
on
was
this evening.
Vince
I believe
Nuggets,
more,
bitch
well
ass.
more over an hour
Oh,
now.
word?
That was
That we've been
Snuggets.
watching this
I
police
guess
pursuit.
that was
Thankfully
him.
now
That was
a
Snuggets.
slow-speed pursuit
That wasn't Ring for sure.
down
That
deep
wasn't
into the
Yeah,
Ilion
nah, that wasn't
Empire.
Ring Beam.
And again, as I mentioned, the helicopter does
That's
have
how
to
you sound,
refuel,
nigga. Don't ever come
and
back
they'll
on the
do that
panel again
quickly
sound
and
like that.
safely. And again,
You know
if
your
this is going
daddy
on,
He
He
sound like he
we'll
tuck
rejoin
his
it as
nuts
soon as
up
we
his
can. We
ass.
want to make sure our crew in the air
You
is
say
safe,
do it,
Chris.
do it.
Very much so. All right, let's move on to our other big story, and as Sarah mentioned,